What if you could just delete a map from the game? Which one would you pick? Before we decide on that, let's look at some data provided by the sponsor of this video, Valorant Tracker. Using Valorant Tracker, we can see our performance across every map, and the results might surprise you. I had no idea, for example, that I was consistently losing more often on ASCENT, Icebox, and Breeze. Honestly, Icebox is one of my favorite maps to play, and I think I've gotten a lot better at it recently. ASCENT, though, is definitely one of those maps I tend to dread playing, so it's kind of cool to see that there is some confirmation that I might need to work on my approach to that map. Grab Valorant Tracker from the links below. Riot just added an 8th map called Pearl to the game, and has also decided to remove a map from the competitive pool to keep the active number at 7. This follows the CSGO model, which uses a 7-map pool that rotates occasionally to shake up the map veto meta. When Riot announced that Split would be the map cut from the rotation, it struck me as kind of an odd choice, considering how they have already done a lot to rework and improve that particular map since its release. The reasons behind this decision were a bit vague.
We look at a bunch of different things. So, like, what is the map delivering on gameplay-wise? Like, what's the experience, and how does it fit into our pool as a whole? What does player sentiment look like? Do players love this map, not love this map? How long has it been in the pool? A bunch of different factors like that. And, when we kind of looked at all of that stuff together and talked through it with all these different groups, Split was the map that made the most sense at this time.
And this got me thinking about which map would actually make the best candidate for removal and rework. Personal bias aside, are there any specific maps that are inherently too unbalanced at the moment? Let's go to the stats. At Masters Reykjavik, we saw a ton of play on Ascent, Icebox, and Split. Haven, Fracture, and Bind were the next 3 most played, and none of these 6 maps had a massive discrepancy between attack and defense sided win rates, only 4% or so at the most. Compared to Breeze, which came in at nearly 60% win rate for the attack side, there is a pretty clear outlier here. Breeze was also by far the least played map at the event, with the least agent variety, and a lot of this kind of points to most teams not really liking playing the map. The map is designed with extremely long and wide open sightlines, which makes Viper's toxic screen basically the only smoke that reliably divides a site completely, and it also means that agents like Brimstone, Breach, Raze, and others lack a lot of effectiveness because their utility is much easier to avoid and thus harder to use. So is Breeze the real map that needs to go? Community sentiment seems to point in that direction. But let's see what pro players are thinking now in the most recent Challengers tournaments. In North America, Breeze is still the least picked map with a truly absurd attack-defense discrepancy. The weird thing, though, is that it has switched to being heavily defensive-sided lately. This could point to some changing ideas about how to approach the map, or simply that only a few teams are practicing it. EMEA seems to agree that Breeze is the worst map in the game, but maybe not necessarily due to the imbalance on attack and defense. Brazil also rates Breeze in the bottom 2, and hardly anyone is playing it in Japan. However, in Korea, Breeze is tied for the most played map, and in the greater APAC region, it is in the top 3. Clearly, there's still some debate to be had here. As a fan of the game, I think one of the most interesting parts about watching it is seeing different ideas clash.
And
yes!
There we go. Nice.
Sorry, I yelled.
Nice. This is happening.
He's picked!
And the idea of agent diversity is hugely important to the health of the game, so I want to quickly look at how each map fares in this type of context. If we average out the number of agents that were played at least once during the Challenger stage on each map, we can see that every map has at least 11 different agents that were tried on it, except for Breeze, which across all major regions ended up with only 9. To me, this feels like something that could be a bit of a bigger problem than side advantage, because a smaller agent pool means that there are less interesting interactions and a much higher chance that the games on the map will start to feel stale and become very boring to watch. While there might not be a global agreement on any one map being the worst to play, there are definitely some data signals that suggest one specific map should be replaced by the introduction of Pearl in competitive play. I'm pretty sad to see Split go because it has been the birthplace of a lot of interesting meta shifts. Think about the Astra Viper combo or the Neon Breach. It's also a map that promotes interesting comeback games due to the defensive sided design. I would definitely personally rather watch a Split match than a Breeze one in the competitive scene, and while the development team did say this,
So this decision was something that we worked with John and competitive. We worked with our esports team. We worked with pro organizations, the general player base, a whole bunch of different people to kind of collaborate and come to a decision on both the 7-map pool and for Split.
I still think that the choice is a questionable one. I will admit that playing in a uncoordinated ranked game can be pretty frustrating starting out on Split attack side, but is that really enough to justify removing one of the iconic maps? What do you think? Did Riot remove the right map? Should the pool be at 7 like in Counter-Strike? And how often should they rotate maps to keep things fresh? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you as always for watching.